Our next speaker today is Akshara Gopiswaminathan. Akshara is a master's student in optometry and vision science at Manipal University, and she works in the lab of Ashwin and Bradley. Akshara comes from an optometry and vision science background, and she's interested in visual neuroscience. And today she'll be talking about overcompensation of lens accommodation in case of convergence insufficiency, a theoretical model. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Aline, for the introduction. So I'm Akshara, and I'm currently a master's student at Manipal University, and this is one of my is not my core project as such. It's something deviated from what I usually do in the clinic. So greetings. I'm Akshara, and my topic will be about the theoretical model of two aspects of binocular vision, that is accommodation and convergence. This is the that is the overcompensation of lens accommodation in case of convergence insufficiency. So the main idea of the paper was put in by Ashwin and Bradley Alicia as well as myself. So before going into the topic, let me give you a short introduction on some of these basics. So convergence is the simultaneous inward movement of both the eyes. The main purpose of convergence is to maintain a binocular fusion. You converge in order to view objects that are at different distances. Constantly viewing targets at closer distances, like reading and viewing digital screens, leads to fatigue of the muscles involved in convergence, that is the medial and the lateral rectus, which leads to an inability of the eye to move to maintain an optimal binocular function. So this is called as convergence insufficiency. Accommodation is the ability of the lens of the eye to change its dioptric power by changing the curvature in order to make the target clear. Accommodation and convergence are related by two pathways: the accommodation triad and the convergence accommodation dual interaction control system. Both of this will be explained in this upcoming slides. So the accommodation triad revolves around the change in the accommodation of the lens, the pupil constriction, and the change in the vergence. This is sequelae happening in the stimulation of retina with change in the targets that you view. Say you are watching TV that is 3 meters away, and you want to change the program with a remote control. So when you are looking at the buttons in the remote, in the remote control in your hand, your retina gets stimulated to the defocus. This is because your lens was well adapted previously for the 3 meters distance. So this goes all the way through the optic nerve and the optic chiasm, and then from there to the optic tract. From there it goes to the lateral geniculate body, and then to the V1, that is the primary visual cortex at the occipital lobe. The perception of blur is processed by V1 through V4, and these process signals are then transferred into the midbrain and then further into the third nerve complex for further motor and parasympathetic processing. This fires the oculomotor nerve complex, creating the neural stimulation for the accommodation triad. The motor branch innervates the medial rectus. The parasympathetic branches synapses at the ciliary ganglion, giving rise to the short ciliary nerve. The short ciliary nerve further reaches into the eyeball and innervates the ciliary muscles and the pupil sphincter. So this image describes the relay process well. So through the brain through the cortices and the midbrain. So the oculomotor complex, as you can see here, is it's well detailed described here. So it has the collection of both parasympathetic as well as the motor nucleus here, and motor roots. So a positive feedback from the prefrontal cortex excites the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, which gives rise to the oculomotor nerve. So along with the positive feedback from the prefrontal cortex, it excites the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, A negative feedback is simultaneously given to the abducens nerve or the sixth nerve, which inhibits the action of divergence, that is the outward movement of the eye. So now coming on to the core topic, because of the prolonged extraocular motility, extraocular muscles excitation, as well as the ciliary muscles contraction due to increased continuous near work, the muscles are fatigued, causing an inability to accommodate as well as converge. This results in blurred vision and diplopia or double vision. So, as the muscles fail to accommodate and converge, the subject or the patient feels asthenopic symptoms such as headache, nausea, and periorbital pain. So, this usually persists as a couple, that is the convergence insufficiency as well as the accommodative insufficiency. But in this presentation, we would be looking into the eccentric clinical presentation of convergence insufficiency with accommodative excess. So let's look into it. So this is the model of the accommodation and versions. So it is self-existent basically. The target distance is taken as the input for the accommodation model as such, and the target binocular substance is taken as the input for the divergence model. The models process parallelly and do not depend immediately on each other for any component as such. As you can see here, it does not any output from one of the model doesn't actually completely alters the other one. So the output of the accommodation model mechanisms involves only a change in the accommodation, but also a proportional leap of change in the vergence called as the accommodative convergence. And the output of the accommodation model influences the amount of vergence and vice versa. So there is an amount of accommodative convergence for every accommodation output, and then there is an amount of convergence accommodation for every convergence output. So this is usually represented as a ratio for the amount of influence value for the actual amount of convergence or the amount of accommodation that has happened. Although the eyes converge, disparities still exist. And when the extraocular muscles get fatigued, the vergence system is taken over by the accommodative system as a secondary feedback to the accommodation control system. So as the secondary compensatory mechanism for the reduced amount of convergence, the amount of accommodation is more. So this is diagnostically taken in by the ratio of convergence accommodation to the convergence amplitude, and in this case it is higher. The compensatory accommodation is greater than the expected accommodation for that distance while the convergence is less. So the presentation of accommodative excess with convergence insufficiency is rare. The usual presentation would be convergence insufficiency with convergence accommodative insufficiency as discussed previously. So all the therapeutic procedures involves training the vergence system to act independently without accommodative system. The targets are designed in such a way that they produce not only demands for the accommodation, for only convergence and not accommodation. So we train them clinically using vision therapies. So there are several vision therapies, but in this case, we treat them with the VTS, that is the vision therapy software. So they're given with liquid crystal glass that acts as alternate occluders with the vision therapy system software. And also the other vision therapy techniques which we could use is the heart chart. Like we'll ask the subject to read one letter here and then another letter from the chart that is placed at some distance, and then we also give them with the eccentric circles for convergence. So though this gives us a valid explanation, the actual mechanism of acquiring convergence insufficiency in this case is not known. That is, the fatigability of the ciliary muscles is not known in this case. So this could potentially be taken as the research scope. We are also planning to include the variance of range of this overcompensation across the population and among the refractive errors, as the correction glasses given in the form of spectacles as plus and minus lenses do have an impact on the amount of convergence and accommodation. Apart from this, even the normal subjects, those with no refractive errors, are adapted with plus plus and minus lenses and checked for these binocular facilities. So we are planning to look into this model to convert it into a comprehensive agent-based computational model. This will have the accommodation and versions as two separate entities as enclosed in the disclosed in the previous model. The chart, and that is, it is a dual interaction model, and the inputs will be in the form of accommodation in the form of distance for accommodation model and angular substance in for the versions model. These are my references. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshara. That was a really excellent talk. So I guess, sorry for the very naive question, but I guess I was interested in whether the timing of fixation is also different in these patients, and whether, or maybe whether your model has implications for kind of saccade to fixation.
Can you repeat it again?
Oh, I was just wondering, like, are these patients, are they slower to fixate?
They are not.
Well? No, it has no, okay. Or whether there's any implications of kind of, yeah, saccades, I guess, as well.
I think that hasn't been studied yet, but yeah, I think that could also be included in as a part of this, like, even, it could be included into this as such.
Okay. Okay, well, we may, thank you very much, Akshara, again, for the great talk. If anyone has any more questions, for Akshara? Or if not, we can move on to the next speaker. Thank you. Okay.